Before we start our topic, let me briefly introduce the background of this game. StarCraft, or often known as its expansion pack, StarCraft Brood War. Since its release in 1998 until today, StarCraft has consistently ranked among the top 10 most popular games in South Korea, as evidenced by the number of online viewers on their live streaming platforms. As of 2007, StarCraft had sold 9.5 million copies, of which 4.5 million copies were sold in South Korea alone. At that time, South Korea's population was only around 49 million, meaning 1 in every 11 people had purchased StarCraft. Why South Korea? Because South Korea has the most mature professional esports system and the highest level of StarCraft competition.
여러분의 뜨거운 함성과 함께 시작하겠습니다. 네.
In 2004, the Pro League final held at the Gwangali Beach in South Korea even set a record for the largest number of live spectators in the history of esports, reaching as many as 100,000 people. In addition, we can take the StarCraft event of the WCG as a reference. As of 2010, the next year StarCraft appeared in the competition. South Korea won all the championships. Let's go back to 1997. At the end of that year, the Asian financial crisis broke out. South Korea, the economic powerhouse of East Asia, was not spared, with a large number of people unemployed at home. StarCraft was officially released in March of the next year, followed by Brood War in December. This game rapidly dominated South Koreans' leisure time. In July 1997, the South Korean government began the preparations for the establishment of a professional gaming association. Soon thereafter, the following year, the Korean Esports Association was established as part of the Ministry of Culture, tasked with managing esports players and regulating the esports industry. From then on, the professional esports system in South Korea was officially established. Over time, 3 major professional leagues eventually stabilized, including 2 individual competitions, OSL and MSL, and 1 team competition, Pro League. In 2004, then President of South Korea, Roh Moo-hyun, even personally met with Boxer, a prominent StarCraft player at the time. Furthermore, in 2017, then presidential candidate Moon Jae-in made a StarCraft map as part of his campaign. In this environment, South Korea's competitive level of StarCraft has remained far ahead of other countries to this day.
자, 떨구기가 얼마나 성공할 수 있을지 맞으면서 들어가면 다 녹습니다, 진짜. 자, 포격을 맞아줄.
예. 야, 이게 참
차단 지공대 가고 있고요.
네.
결국은 떨구면서 다크섬이에요. 떨구면 다크섬 계속 쳐줘야 돼요. 네. 어차피 피해를 많을 수밖에 없습니다.
네.
적으로 피해 많을 수밖에 없어요. 그럼 감당해야 하거든요.
패시브 매트릭스가 정말 공격과
다 들어가요. 데미지 다 들어가요.
공격과 방어가 정말 일치월장입니다. 양 선수 모두 다.
자, 여기다 뚫어내야 됩니다. 여기다 살짝 들게 만들어야 돼요. 공격감을 심어줘야 됩니다. 김명훈.
However, in 2012, with the release of StarCraft 2 and the impact of match-fixing scandals, the professional league shifted to StarCraft 2. Finally, some players choose to stay and transition to StarCraft 2, while others retired and pursued their own careers. During this period, StarCraft's popularity plummeted, and its share in internet cafes fell out of top 10 unprecedentedly. However, the story didn't end there. With the development of internet and the rise of live streaming, retired StarCraft pro gamers returned in droves, finding suitable, relatively respectable, and well-paying careers. To this day, these players still represent the highest level of competition, having completed the transition from pro gamers to full-time streamers. For the sake of simplicity, unless otherwise specified, we will refer to them as pro gamers uniformly. As a side note, there's an exception, a player who calls himself Fake JD, Soma, as he's a fan of JD. Rumor has it that he shared a dormitory with JD during college and learned a great deal about StarCraft from JD. He is currently the only player who has reached the highest level of competition without ever playing professional StarCraft. Later, when we refer to pro gamer, we will include him. In 2015, South Korea's largest live streaming platform, Africa TV, announced the launch of the StarCraft League, ASL. This became widely recognized as the most authentic and prestigious StarCraft competition.
ASL.
In 2017, StarCraft Remastered was released. The series of events reignited StarCraft's popularity in South Korea, and it has since surpassed StarCraft 2. For this reason, when discussing StarCraft, there's no way of avoid mentioning South Korea. All future StarCraft discussions on this channel will revolve around Korean StarCraft. Enough of background introduction, let's get to the meat of today's topic. Let's first watch a pro gamer's first-person video to get a feel for it. Gathering, isn't it? Notice this number? It stands for actions per minute. A 300 APM means you are performing 5 actions per second. This may be hard for people who haven't played similar games or musical instruments to grasp. As early as 17 years ago, I showed this video to a friend. His reaction was that it couldn't possibly be human controlled. However, he eventually became obsessed with it because of this video and reached a relatively high level of proficiency. When StarCraft released, due to the limitations of the technology at the time, many of the mechanics and algorithms were immature, requiring expensive manual actions. In order to preserve the original competitive integrity, StarCraft Remastered has also retained this intact. For players new to the game, the average APM is between 40 and 60. For players who have a basic grasp of hotkeys and group controls, the APM is between 100 and 150. 150 to 180 is considered entry level. 180 plus is enough to reach S rank on the ladder. The points I've made are my personal opinion, only serving as a guide. Actually, a number of programmers have demonstrated that with a single hand around 1:30 APM, they can easily defeat S-rank players on the ladder. That being said, you might face some challenges with this level of APM when participating in a competition. For reference, among Korean programmers, the lowest APM is around 250 to 300, which looks like this. The APM of 350 to 400 looks like this.
아군이 공격받고 있습니다.
Execution speed is just the basis. Execution quality and decision making are the core parts of the game. I've seen too many players with around 300 to 400 APM but below C rank on the ladder. I remember about 20 years ago, a scene went around in the StarCraft community. Anyone who could split 4 workers to 4 different mineral patches must be a top-tier player. 4 workers on 1 patch is the noob move, 2 patches is entry level, many ghosts can only do 3.
Reporting for duty. Orders received. Orders, Captain. Yes, sir. Orders, Captain. I read you. Reporting for duty.
Times have changed, and that saying no longer applies. Nowadays, the requirements for manning at the start extend beyond simply splitting 4 workers.
Yes, sir.
As mapping becomes increasingly standardized, the need for balanced manning efficiency across each start locations on various maps has also increased, and the placement of mineral patches has gradually fixed.
Affirmative.
Thus, higher demand is placed on players, requiring them to split their 4 workers to the 4 specific mineral patches with the highest gathering rate, and to adjust their positions and orientations for optimal gathering.
Right away, sir.
In the early stages of the game, as gathering goes on, constant actions is needed to maximize the efficiency, just to maintain a 3 to 5 second lead at the start.
Yes, sir. Reporting for duty. Roger that. Reporting for duty. Yes, sir. I read you. Orders, Captain. Roger that. Orders, Captain. Orders, Captain.
There's a joke in the StarCraft community. StarCraft players don't need eyesight. What does that mean? StarCraft competitive gaming has a deeply unconventional quality. The human brain is designed to focus on a single task, but in competitive gaming, you are forced to think about how to juggle multiple different things happening on multiple screens simultaneously. For example, the most basic thing is balancing frontline scouting with macro management.
파일런이 더 필요합니다. 아군 전사들이 교전 중입니다. 미네랄이 부족합니다. 미네랄이 부족합니다. 내 목숨을 라이오에 아군 전사들이 교전 중입니다.
A more tricky situation involves balancing offensive and defensive play, while diverting a portion of your focus away to macro-management. Perhaps the most challenging situation is when you are busy on the frontline macro and the red dot suddenly appears into your vision on the minimap near your base, requiring you to immediately switch over and deal with the situation. If your reactions are delayed, or if you just neglected, here's the consequences. Or
업그레이드 완료. 아군 전사들이 교전 중입니다. 아군 전사들이 교전 중입니다. 아군 전사들이 교전 중입니다.
there was a time when I was deeply baffled by why programmers could spot these things most of the time, and why I always missed them. Later, for a while, after some intensive practices and suffering a few setbacks, I began to periodically check certain areas of the minimap at specific timings. For example, after cutting back to pump out a round of units, I'd take a glance. After some minimap macros, I'd take a glance. On the condition of a consistent practice schedule, it gradually became a habit. Of course, most players don't have the time for such dedicated practice, so there's no way around it. The above is all about execution aspects. Next, let's talk about the macro and decision-making details. Another major challenge in StarCraft is that you must focus on high-intensity control while also keeping a clear mind. You need to decide your next move and anticipate your opponent's potential actions. Most of the time, you can rely on your conditional reflex, but this doesn't always work. For example, if you haven't managed to make a habit of checking the worker count when using the scan,
미네랄이 부족합니다. 미네랄이 부족합니다.
아 씨발.
or after a fight, there's only one dragoon and one reaver left on the front line, and several dragoons on the rear to cut off the reinforcements.
잘 싸웠다.
센터 들어가 놀아. 이거는 뒤에 있잖아.
개잘 싸웠다. 나이스.
근데 잠깐만 봐야 돼.
아니야 이겼어.
지금 리버 점수만 있어. 근데 리버가 살아있잖아. 아니 바로 뒤로 또 살아있어서 봐야 돼. 우타가 끊기잖아. 벌처가.
야 이거 뒤에 거 먹고 가.
진짜 먹고 가든지 벌처가.
아니 많이 가면 아니 탱크만 가면 안 돼.
질러지 먹어. 지금 많이 밟았어. 리버 못 샀어. 리버 못 샀어. 근데 탱크가 다 빨피야. 봐야 돼. 끝까지 봐야 돼. 탱크 다 빨피야.
너무 빨린데?
I believe all Terran players would immediately push forward at this point. However, this was the final outcome. If we carefully analyze it from a bird's eye view, most of our tanks are at a half hit point, and the opponent has 2 shadows. If the opponent's follow-up units are zealous, coupled with the above-mentioned dragoons and a river, the risk of simply unseating our tanks and pushing is actually quite high. The better option here is to withdraw all tanks and work with the follow-up vultures to take out or drive off the dragoons intercepting the reinforcements. Then decide on the next move based on the situation. Sure, this is our handset, and it's difficult to make the most accurate judgment in real combat. Playing it too safe and pulling out prematurely could also miss the window of opportunity. Having great mechanics and a solid macro isn't enough to achieve success in competitive matches. Playing passively on defense or with reacting often puts you at disadvantage. It's imperative to seize the initiative by any means necessary, even by deceiving your opponent to gain an advantage. For example, Zerg players typically take to Mutalisk after getting their lair, and Terran players usually assume this. However, Zerg can deceive like this. So what was the result? Did he succeed? Let's look at Kevin's perspective.
미네랄이 부족합니다.
Clearly, he did. I even remember a more brilliant deception back in the early days of StarCraft live stream. Back then, 3-hatch Muta was the most popular in ZVT matches. Zerg will typically save 9 larvae, and immediately morph 9 Mutalisks when the spell completes. Then at a time, Killer would morph 6 Hydralisks and 3 Drones. So even if you timed it right and used your scan, only to see the spare, the Hydralisk den, and 9 swelling eggs, it was difficult to tell whether Zerg chose Mutalisks or Lurkers at the moment. Regrettably, I can no longer find the relevant videos. It's difficult to make everyone feel the charm of StarCraft in such a short video. In the next episode, I will briefly introduce the topic and general plan of this channel. That's all for this episode. Thank you.